Lovely Bones takes place in an American suburb in the 1970s. In what ways is this setting important to how the story unfolds? What is the significance of specific elements in Susie's landscape? The similar houses in her neighborhood, the remaining vestiges of old farmland, the sinkhole where Mr. Harvey hides her body. Why do you think the author chose this particular type period? How might the story be different if it were happening today?
Well, it started off how it said that when kids go missing back in the 70s, it wasn't as a big a deal as it would have been today. Like if it was today, it would have been on the news and just all the way everywhere in the community. And I feel like literally everybody would know if it was today rather than then.
And I feel like it was such like a shockwave of like grief and emotions because like it wasn't something that happened a lot. It wasn't something that like people thought about happening.
And now it would be easier to figure out where they are and who the person is that did it.
Ruth Connor inadvertently becomes Susie's main connection to Earth. How does this turn change Ruth? Does it seem strange that someone who wasn't close to Susie during her life is so deeply affected by her death? Is Ruth's obsession with murdered girls exploitive of Susie's fate, or is it healing in some way?
So I feel like it is kind of weird that like she wasn't close to Susie and then all of a sudden she's just kind of like obsessed with her and like dead people and stuff like that. But I think it's like she was given like the gift to like see that and see who's like died in certain places and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like her obsession definitely does have to do with Susie's death.
Yeah, and I feel like it let her emotions out.
Yeah,
more.
definitely because before she was really quiet.
Yeah.
And then she like got a friend. 6. Susie's closest sibling, Lindsay, carries a unique burden as a result of her sister's death. What was the sister's relationship like before the tragedy? What are the particular expectations and pressures Lindsay must cope with? How does Susie's death change Lindsay?
Well, when she first died, Lindsay became very hesitant to like people.
Yeah. I feel like she kind of cut off everybody and kind of just wanted to be by herself to deal with everything. I feel like she bottled a lot of that inside.
Which would probably happen for a girl her age.
Definitely changes by the end of the book because then she seems like way more open to everybody.
Yeah.
And that has to do with, I think that has to do with her boyfriend, and he helps her a lot through the whole journey.
And for like the death pressure in Lindsay into things like I feel like people saw her sister in her and she was the older version of her sister that her sister was never gonna get to
be. Her replacement.
Yeah, and I feel like
New Susie.
in the book when her grandmother Lynn came over and started doing makeup and stuff on her mother, the reason she wanted to get her makeup done because she didn't want to look like her sister.
Yeah.
She didn't want people to see her sister in her, which would definitely be really hard.
How does Abigail cope with Susie's death? What does she seek in her interaction with Len Fennerman? What do you think of her decision to leave her family? Why does she return? Do you believe that this is the right choice for her?
I feel like in a lot of cases when there is a death in a family, parents, I'm pretty sure the percentages
falls
they
apart.
all fall apart. And
When
a lot of
someone in
people
the
get
family
divorced.
is gone, the rest is just like.
Well, it's hard. It can never be the same.
Yeah.
And a lot of marriages are around their children, and when you lose a child, it just splits everything apart. And like for the return, I don't know. I feel like it's good that she came back after leaving to California, but
Maybe her return was just like saying that she's better and like over the fact that better about the death.
Yeah. And I feel like everything worked out, but I feel like Buckley, since he was so young when she left,
That probably affected him.
He was really bitter towards her, and I feel like that would be very hard to. Mr. Harvey dies in a way that seems to indicate a larger justice at work. Certainly his victims rejoice from heaven at his demise. But does his death really bring justice to those who he has hurt? Can it compensate for what they had lost? Why do you think the author chose not to have Mr. Harvey apprehended by the police? Why Susie's body never found? This is the one part of the book that I did not like.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I feel like he kind of, when he died, he was older too. Like he got to live his life free. I feel like he deserved to be in prison for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But he does. But I feel like in the book, Susie had the perfect murder in her head, and it was that someone would die from, you'd kill them with an icicle. And I feel like it
Yeah.
kind of gave her what she needed to move on,
Yeah.
because she felt like it was something that she had come up with.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
It says, does it bring justice to the ones he's hurt? Really nothing would ever make up for what he did.
No.
I feel like the people who he has hurt kind of wanted him to suffer,
Yeah.
and I'm not, just him dying, I'm not sure if that's like
No.
enough suffering that they wanted him, because
Yeah. What does Susie mean when she refers to the lovely bones on page 320? So the exact quote is, "These are the lovely bones that had grown around my absence. The connections, sometimes tenuous, sometimes made at great cost, but often magnificent, that happened after I was gone." So I think like the lovely bones is like what was left behind,
Yeah.
maybe. And like when it says connections and like sometimes made at great cost, I don't know, it's maybe like relationships that formed because
Yeah.
of what happened.
Does Jack Salmon allow himself to be swallowed up by his grief? Is there a point where he should let go? Susie observes that the living deserve attention too. Jack's grief increased his family suffering, or is there something admirable about his holding on so tight to Susie's memory and not denying his profound sadness?
I feel like any parent, it would be, this would happen to any parent. Like I feel like the same thing happened. It wasn't just Susie's father, it was her mother too. Like, but she dealt with it in a different way.
I find in many different situations that it's always like the one parent holds on and is attached to the event, but then the other one just tries to pretend like it didn't happen and
Yeah.
move
Yeah.
off to a different like person, like
Yeah.
she did with Sense.
And I definitely feel that it was actually a good thing that he let his emotions out, because it kind of like showed his kids that it was okay to do that. Buckley claims to see Susie, though she never mentions consecutively revealing himself to him. Do you believe he really sees her, or does he make up these encounters in an attempt to cope with her death? How do you explain tragedy to a child? Do Jack and Abigail do a good job of helping Buckley understand the loss of his sister?
I feel like it's just his imagination because he's
Mhm.
missing her.
Mm-hmm.
At that
Yeah.
age, you
Yeah.
imagine a lot of stuff.
You know when
Yeah.
like you just, because it's always on his mind and stuff, and when you're like got a glimpse in a mirror or something and you kind of see something,
Mhm.
and if it's always on his mind, so it could have, the image or the
Yeah.
glimpse could have turned out to be her.
Jack definitely did a good job of helping
Mhm.
Buckley like understand,
Yeah.
but Abigail, she didn't really want him to know.
Yeah.
I don't think like, cause Jack like showed him what death was with the Monopoly board game,
Mhm.
and it was a good way of showing a child like what
Yeah.
loss is. And Buckley seemed to understand, but like his mother, she didn't really talk about it with him like at the beginning. They didn't tell him for like a couple weeks
Yeah.
what had actually happened. I feel like it was just too hard for her to explain.
Yeah.
And once he was older, like he understood,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
that would happen with anybody.
Yeah.
Like once they grew up and got to a certain age, they would understand
Yeah.
what happened,
Mm-hmm.
and probably understand why their parents told them the way that they did.
Mm-hmm. So I enjoyed this book. It's
Yeah.
pretty good. It was
Yep. I don't even like reading, and it was actually pretty good. so-
Yeah, yeah. Definitely recommend it to anybody interested
Yeah.
in something like this. So